Bizarre Reality Media. The reality we live in can be a very strange place. Most of the time, fact being stranger than fiction. How will we ever start to understand this reality we live in unless we question everything? Join me and a guest as we unravel the mysteries of this reality, one topic at a time. This is Inquiries of Reality with Shayn Jones.
What is up, Inquirers, and welcome to the expanse of deep conversational exploration into the fringes of social norms. I'm the one they call Shane, aka the original Shane Squatch, and today for you guys, I have friend and researcher Stuemke, a guest I've been teasing and eager to have on the show for quite some time. Join us as we dig into the hidden symbolism and ancient legends of Detroit, exploring the city's mysterious past and its connections to cosmic and supernatural phenomena. From the sacred landscapes of Native American mound sites to the modern-day occult symbolism, Chad shares his extensive research and insights, revealing a side of Detroit that few have seen. Whether you're a local or you're just curious about the city's occult history, this episode promises to open your eyes to a new perspective of the Motor City and quite possibly your own hometown. Also, there is a video component to this episode, so if you guys might be interested in checking out any of the images that Chad ends up bringing up during the conversation, the link for the YouTube video will be available down in the show description. But before we get into this fascinating conversation, I wanted to make sure that I take a moment to give a big shout out to a listener out there, dare I say an inquirer, because she definitely appreciates and supports the show. Kirsty out there in Australia, she donated to the show directly through PayPal, which I greatly appreciate, especially this holiday season, trying to build up and give the kids as good of a Christmas as I possibly can. But yeah, she donated to the show directly and says, thanks for all your hard work, Shane, from Australia. So thanks again for being a listener out there. Thanks for enjoying the show. And as she mentioned, thanks for listening to every single episode. And if any of you guys might want to be awesome enough to join the ranks of an official inquirer, you guys can always donate to the show directly. And of course, I will give you guys a big shout out in the show. If you guys even have a possible note you want me to read, I can definitely do that on the show too. But again, big thank you to Kirsty out there in Australia. Greatly appreciate it. And hopefully you stick around and enjoy the show as it continues on. But moving on from that, one thing that I'm going to try to do and build up with you guys is possibly bringing back the whole idea of a chat community. But in order for me to do that, I just have a quick question that I'm going to have to ask you guys. I ended up making a poll for it, just one simple question. I don't know what people prefer, either using Telegram or Discord. So if you guys don't mind taking a second just to pop onto that survey, don't even have to enter any information, no email, nothing. All it is just two click point options for either Discord or Telegram, just so I can see which one you guys prefer and I can start working from there. But if you guys aren't interested in the chat community at all or getting to know me, anything like that, then that's totally fine too. But I think it might be something kind of fun for you guys, and hopefully I can build up that type of stuff going into this new year, because it seems like I got a pretty good listener base out there, but I haven't really had too much of an opportunity to connect with you guys. So I want to try to change that and make sure that if I start up a new Discord or Telegram server, it'll probably be the main place that I'm the most active on, so you guys will be able to interact and we can all kind of get to know each other, which I definitely think this show has been missing. So let's get this working, let's build up this community, and let's have some fun over there. But continuing on past that, yet another survey. I apologize, guys, but if you guys don't mind taking the time to fill out my 8-question survey, all pertaining to your guys' thoughts and opinions with the show, all things that are hopefully going to help the show grow and improve as we come into this new year. All it should take is less than 10 minutes. If you guys don't mind taking the time to actually put some thought-provoking answers, I would definitely appreciate that too. And at the end of the day, you guys might end up winning a free t-shirt of your choice off of the Bizarre Reality Media merch store. That's going to be continuously going until it reaches 50 entries. Currently, it's at about 25, so you guys definitely have more than enough time to do it. But if you guys don't mind taking the time to do that for me, that link is available down in the show description. And for anybody that caught the last live Bizarre Inquiries that happened last week, the next one, if you guys happen to miss that, will be happening on January 8th at the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over there on the Bizarre Reality YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble channels. And if you guys have any questions, clips, or articles that you guys would like to submit for the next one, make sure you guys get it to us before then. But if anyone is interested in being a guest on the show, sharing their encounters or experiences, or contacting me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can do so through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com, or you guys could always call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline number 24/7, and that number is 313-364-1551. And if you guys are interested in supporting the show and all of the hard work behind it, there are a handful of awesome ways that you guys can do so. First and foremost, you guys can go and check out the Patreon with 2 tiers available, ad-free / early access and full access. And there is a lot of new exciting stuff that's going to be coming as far as the Patreon goes coming into this new year. A lot of new stuff I want to try out with you guys. So hopefully you guys will interact and we can build up an awesome community and possibly even build one up over there on Patreon. And next, you guys could always go and check out the Bizarre Reality Media merch store with t-shirts just $15.68 plus shipping, equals out to about $20 after shipping. So about average for a t-shirt, and you guys can support the little guy in the process, which I definitely appreciate. And if you guys send me a picture of you guys wearing some of my merchandise, I will definitely post it on the pages and give you guys a massive shout out. And if you guys want to, you guys could donate to the show directly, which I greatly appreciate this holiday season, especially because I'm trying to give the kids as good of a Christmas as I possibly can. And fortunately enough, I had somebody from Australia who donated, so another big shout out to you. Again, I greatly appreciate it. But if you guys are interested in doing that, give me an energy drink to keep me up through the night, anything like that, you guys can do so through PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, and all those links are available down in the show notes. And last but not least, you guys can always go and check out the affiliate links with some additional discounts and credits available for you guys down there, coming from Dimension Devices to get yourself some paranormal investigating equipment, or you guys can always go and check out Sticker Mule and get a $10 free credit for stickers, t-shirts, whatever you guys happen to want to use them for. And I know times are tough out there, but if you guys would like to support the show in some other ways, one of the best ways that you guys can do that is through leaving a review or rating for the show on any podcatcher you happen to use to help the show get pushed up in the algorithms a little bit, make it so that the show can be seen by more people, so we can keep growing the community and possibly get some more awesome guests on for you guys. So if you guys don't mind doing that, I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, I will read that on the show and give you guys a big shout out for that one. And you guys can always go and follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You guys could share the show directly, word of mouth, with anybody that you think might enjoy it. Friends, enemies, co-workers, family members, anybody. Grassroots is always the best way for the show to continue to grow. And you guys can always go and catch live shows and video content on the Bizarre Reality Media YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch channels. And last but not least, another awesome way you guys can support all the work behind the show is by going and checking out my other show, Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin, talking about a lot of the same stuff we talk about on this show, but a little bit of a different format because most of the show is our research with some guests mixed in along the way. But hey, all else fails, it might be another podcast to get you guys through your work week. And every single thing that I mention is all available on the link tree, which is available down in that show description. And with that, let's get into the show. Please welcome to the show somebody that I've been trying to get on for a very long time after a lot of conversations behind the scenes, him kind of popping in and out of wanting to do podcasts and everything, but us kind of remaining talking in the background. Please welcome to the show, Chad Stuemke. How's it going today, man?
Hey, Shane. Going good, man. Thanks for having me. Been a long time coming. Today's the day. Glad to be. Timing's everything, man. Today's the day it's meant to be.
Hey, and they actually have some stable internet connection today, which is definitely a plus, because the original plan, which for anybody that follows me on Instagram and stuff, might have seen that we went out, did a tour of Detroit, hung out with you. We totally forgot to get a picture of ourselves together because, I always forget about social media stuff like that. And the original plan was that we're going to end up trying to record in like a library or something like that. But, we kind of got caught up just hanging out, chatting, going around the city, checking out all these spots. So I'm glad that we're finally sitting down to do it and we have a stable internet connection and we can finally make it work. And maybe at another time we can actually do it in person. But
yeah, for sure, man. We did. We had an awesome time cruising around Detroit. And, like you said, the stable internet connection thing is because I live up in the middle of the woods in northern Michigan. So apologize, everybody, if we get a little laggy, but we'll make it worth your while.
So I guess a good spot to start, man, because I'm sure people don't want to hear us talk too much about our adventure without knowing a little bit of the context. For people that may not know who you are, what your research is exactly, why don't you let them know a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do, man?
Yeah, as far as Detroit in particular, I've been studying, well, it started off with studying the ancient sacred landscapes and the Native American mound sites. And in Detroit, most of those areas were built over by the city. So I started looking at what was built over the ancient mound sites, and in particular in Detroit, there's a couple parks, Hart Plaza in particular, and I really started to dig into some of the symbolism. And the symbolism, the reason I dug into it is because there's just this cosmic symbolism that emerges from downtown Detroit that you can't help but to recognize almost. And I was really interested in ancient legends and right away noticed that a lot of the legends and lore was coinciding with the modern symbolism. So I really spent years just kind of digging into the symbolism and the ancient history of Detroit in particular, but other cities also. And it's kind of led me into looking at paranormal hotspots, so to speak. Because almost all these ancient landscapes that have emerged with this cosmic and stellar and sometimes portal symbolism, they also, in most cases, are paranormal hotspots. So I've just been kind of going city to city and doing some decoding, and that's kind of where we're at now. Detroit, in particular, is one of my favorites, and it's stellar, man. Like it's aligned to the stars, it's aligned to ancient sites, it's aligned to ancient legends, and we'll get a little bit into all that.
It's one of those things too that it's like once you see it, you can see it, but if you aren't aware of it, then you don't see it, and it's like hidden in plain sight. Because I've been somebody who's lived near Detroit my entire life, and albeit that I don't usually go out and hang out in Detroit very often, just because not really my scene or nothing like that. But after going out there and kind of having a new set of eyes after kind of diving into all of this stuff from doing the show and everything, as soon as we started walking down there, man, I could start seeing how obvious all of this stuff is. And I'm sure we'll kind of go through it a bit, but there's one in particular that after seeing it, it's kind of hard to unsee it. And it's that one that I kind of shared with you, but I'm sure we'll get to that. But man, it's one of those things too, just Detroit. You always hear about how occult the history is, but you don't realize the depth of it. And I mean, even beyond some of the symbolism that you're showing me down there, even just like the buildings that are down there, the histories behind some of these buildings, like it has such a fine-tuned ingrainment into the occult, even going back to ancient folklore. It's crazy. But even being, like I said, a Detroit local, this is like a history that seems like it's purposefully hidden up and kind of covered up under the city. So not a lot of people know about it, which is all the more reason to talk about it, if you ask me.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. Seeing it with a new set of eyes. And I was the same way. I used to go down to Hart Plaza, one of the places we went, and skateboard around on the monuments and walk my dogs for years and didn't recognize any of it. And then I got into an investigative mythologist researcher, William Henry, his work, and he was talking about some of the same type of stellar symbolism in Nashville. And I went down there and kind of checked it out, and it instantly hit me, hey, man, I've been walking around one of these parks in my own backyard. And once you see it, like you said, with a new set of eyes, everything just starts to pop out to you. And I apologize, because now when you go down there, you're going to see everything with that new set of eyes. But that's what I like to do. I like to talk to people who live in an area, and you can see a place you lived your whole life in a whole new light. And that's huge. I mean, that's huge. You get a whole new appreciation for it.
Man, just going down to Belle Isle, like that's one of the places that I do honestly regularly go to in Detroit. And just walking into that after walking in downtown with you, man, I was like, Stargate, there's symbolism right there. Like it got ridiculous to the point where I've been there so many times and didn't see it. But the only thing that I kind of knew, which was a partial link into it, which I'm sure we'll probably get into at some point, even if it's on a part 2 of this, the whole like white deer connection with Belle Isle and the fact that they had the white deer at the zoo. And I was always really into folklore, as a lot of people know from this show. So I kind of knew that weird connection. But once you, again, get this different set of eyes, you see these obelisks everywhere, and then you realize that maybe that's purposely placed there beyond just the folklore legend, that it kind of takes on a totally different view on what they might be potentially trying to do with Detroit as, I guess, somewhat of like a hub for the occult in a weird way.
Yeah, well, I see 2 parallel paths running. In one case, a lot of this was implemented intentionally by the occult, by Masons, Aleister Crowley's intentions. But then there's another parallel path where a lot of this other stuff, I believe, came through the subconscious of artists, almost as if it was destined to be in the streets in this region. So in some aspects it was intentional, but almost stranger to me is the other aspects that were possibly unintentional by the artists, but were subconsciously downloaded when they were at that right place and the right frequency or state of mind. And I think these occultists may have been aware of that possibility, of this energy that does emanate from this area, and they were also probably able to pick up on it. So I do like always to point out this area and this energy. It could be seen as light or dark. There's an energy there, and the cultists obviously come down there and they interpret it and utilize it in a dark fashion. But that same energy can be utilized in positive ways too. So I like to point that out because a lot of times you'll see, in particular with the Stargate we're going to look at today, I've seen people call it the demon portal and this and that, and that's not it. Like if you do the research into this, it's not a so-called demon portal. That's not it. It is a portal, but I call it a subconscious portal. It's a place where if you're in the right frequency, right state of mind, the right possibly time, you can pick up on these energies, and sometimes you even catch glimpses of the past and the present and the future. And I don't, some people say that's not a literal Stargate, and I get that. It's not a literal Stargate you walk through and go to California. But these are places you can go and connect with other realms, consciousness portals. And I think the occultists recognize that. But now I'd like to show other people that we can recognize that too. It doesn't have to be negative, a negative aspect.
Well, I guess before we start getting into the presentation and stuff, because you got a bunch of pictures, of course, because if you're going to be hearing about this stuff, you, of course, need a visual. Just one kind of thing I was kind of thinking about with Detroit, talking about this whole like energy and this like manifestation of energy and using these energy for quote like portals, because whatever, it's like a liminal space for whatever reason. It really is double-sided with Detroit because you have like the blood sacrifice side of it, because obviously there's a lot of murders and a lot of crime in Detroit. But on the other side of it, you also have this very like positive light shining aspect of Detroit, that Detroit has a very vibrant history when it comes to like political movements, when it comes to being a foundation for change all through time. So it's kind of weird how this energy seems to be utilized in this extremely positive way to be able to create change. And it also seems to be utilized in this very negative way, which also kind of results in it being such a crime-driven, violence-ridden city. But it's kind of weird. When people in Detroit really kick up, they really kick up. And I guess we'll kind of go through some of the fun facts as we go along. But one of the ones that I don't know exactly when I want to share it is the Martin Luther King Jr. fun fact that I had literally no idea about. But as soon as we get to the portal, then it kind of leads the way into it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little about that in a minute. But yeah, most people don't know Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech wasn't given in Washington, D.C. first. It was given right here in downtown Detroit, in particular on the exact place we're talking about being a possible consciousness portal. And we're not going to have time to get into all the words of his speech today, but if you go look up the I Have a Dream speech from Detroit, you will see some cosmic messages in it. Talking about carving tunnels of hope through mountains of despair, transforming dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. And he did this all with hundreds of thousands of people gathered around him right here at the Stargate portal we're going to talk about. And many other historic moments have happened right here at this precise place. And many times these moments are world-changing, like quite literally world-changing. And I think sometimes these artists, these special people, are literally channeling this information because they are standing on this spot and they're literally feeling it, so to speak.
I mean, not to get too far into the negative aspect of it, but I mean, even Belle Isle, for example, obviously one of these very liminal points, and we'll kind of get around to it, but the Detroit riots started on the Belle Isle Bridge, which also is like, again, not necessarily in a positive way, but like this thing that literally rolled and kind of shook the entire country that started at, again, one of these liminal points.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, the light and the dark, they both pulse through these points. But a lot of change takes place beginning at these points for whatever reason, for sure.
Hold on tight, guys. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break. And now back to the show. So, I don't know if you want to screen share, but yeah, we could probably start popping through it because I have all this context I want to add, but I almost kind of feel like we need to do that loop almost kind of like how we did at the tour because, I got to start at the initial point and kind of lead way into the rest of it.
Absolutely, man. Let's get pulled up here. Let's see. I'm just going to start with this overhead view of downtown Detroit. So you see that we're talking about along the Detroit River. That's Belle Isle right there. And we're talking about to the Native Americans, and currently this has been a sacred landscape all along the river. All these little triangles here, these were all ancient mounds. To the Native Americans, this area was a place between realms, a place of life and death. This is where they came to bury their dead. And there were legends of gatekeepers. This was Chief Sleeping Bear, and he was considered a gatekeeper of the Detroit River in particular. Now, we're going to kind of leave it at that this was a sacred area to the Native Americans. And then the white man came along and started building streets, and the first street layouts they built, Augustus Woodward built the street layouts in the form of a pentagram. So once again, they started laying stars on the ground of Detroit right from its inception. So that's pretty important because we'll see the symbol of the star and the pentagram over and over in Detroit. So I guess maybe we'll skip straight to Hart Plaza since we talked about it a little bit. And
Saying if people want a little bit more context with Cadillac, which I don't know if we're going to end up getting into it on this one because it might save the folklore stuff for later, but the Nine Rouge actually plays a big detail into a lot of this stuff that we were kind of discussing in the car before we ended up doing the walk-in. And I did a deep dive on the Nine Rouge on Bizarre Encounters if anybody wants a little bit more context on that. But, I won't go back all through that stuff, but I'll kind of drop in some of the Nine Rouge stuff as we go along because that stuff's always fascinating too because I think there's a really big connection with that. And there's also a reason why, even for Detroit locals, the Nine Rouge really isn't that commonly talked about of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Like Shane pointed out, the first French settler to pull ashore Cadillac, the legend is he had an encounter with a cryptid known as the Nain Rouge, this red elfin figure, and he supposedly wrestled the Nain Rouge. And to this day, they still have a festival, and they march down the streets dressed as the Nain Rouge. It's a super interesting legend, and one of the very first legends as far as cryptids are concerned in Detroit. And people to this day, they take it serious. They really do. So Hart Plaza, we'll get back to Hart Plaza, and this was created in 1974 by a Japanese-American artist, Osamu Noguchi, and he came down to this particular piece of landscape and, as he put it, got a feel for what he thought would fit in. And one of my favorite things to point out about Hart Plaza and what Osamu Noguchi did was he aligned the plaza and some of the main features to be correlated and orientated just like the Giza pyramids, and also aligned to the constellation of Orion. So what I mean by that is several of the monuments, the amphitheater, the horse and sun fountain, and a pyramid are aligned and correlated exactly like the pyramids in Giza. And they are also aligned to the constellation of Orion as it rises overhead on the winter solstice, December 21st every year. Perfectly aligned. Now,
I think that was one of the main questions I asked you when we went down there was if you stand right in the middle of the fountain and you look up, what would you see? And you said it lined up exactly with the belts of Orion, which makes it even weirder, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's perfect. And, it'd be one thing if I just said, hey, there's 3 monuments down there. They form a line and they align to the pyramids. But I dug into these monuments, and each monument, in some aspect, shape, or form, correlates or corresponds to a alignment to the Giza pyramids. So we'll just start, for instance, with the Horus and Sun Fountain, and this is in the same location as the central pyramid in Giza. And as I said, this is called the Horus and Sun Fountain. Now, it's actually dedicated to Horace Dodge, the automobile pioneer. But, his name is Horus. Got an Egyptian sound to it. I think we can use it. And Horus's son, his name was Horus Jr. Well, synchronistically, in Egyptian mythology, there's a Horus the Elder and a Horus the Son, or a Horus Jr. So it matches up perfectly with the Egyptian symbolism. Now, did Osamu Noguchi recognize he was doing that? It's hard to say. Now, the same Egyptian symbolism did follow Horus Dodge. We didn't get to go here the other day, Shane, but Woodlawn Cemetery, where Horace Dodge was buried, him and his brother, they're buried in an Egyptian mausoleum flanked by Sphinx. Inside the mausoleum, there's a stained glass relief of the Giza pyramids. So the symbolism absolutely followed him. That said, Osamu Noguchi, who created the fountain, he said, the symbolism will only be recognized when the time is right. He never actually came out and said, I'm aligning this to the pyramids, or this has anything to do with Egypt, but the symbolism will only be recognized when the time is right. So, we mentioned it's named the Horus and Sun Fountain, but the shape of it, that's why I'm glad we're showing pictures, because the shape of it is identical to the Egyptian goddess Nut, who happened to be Horus the Elder's mom. She was the sky goddess. And she was the mom of Isis, Osiris, Nephthys, Set, and Horus the Elder. So Osamu Noguchi actually, in this one fountain, encapsulated the whole Egyptian family. And it's aligned to the stars and correlated to the pyramids. So, did Osamu Noguchi realize he was doing this, or did he do it subconsciously? We'll talk about that more in just a second. So, another monument aligned to the pyramids, it's a pyramid. Like, no questions, Shane, we don't got to search for symbolism, it's a pyramid. There's signs all over pointing the way to the pyramid. So, easy match for the correlation on the pyramid. Right where the Sphinx would be in Egypt, there's a pathway that leads to the Sphinx. Here, there's a pathway that leads to a large Egyptian pylon. So, did Osamu Noguchi align the plaza on purpose? Possibly. He did just return from Egypt when he came here and built the plaza. He was in Egypt for 2 years, and he was studying the relationship the Egyptians had with their temples. And when he came back to Detroit, he created Hart Plaza. Now, this is even more interesting to me. Could he have done it subconsciously, like we were talking about before? And the only reason I even bring this up is because of a prior artwork he did called The Face to be Seen from Mars. And this is back in 1947. Same year as Roswell. Same year that Aleister Crowley happened to pass away. A lot going on. But in 1947, Noguchi was going to create this enormous earthen structure. It's going to be 2 miles wide, 3 miles long, have a mile-high pillar of a nose, so large it could only be seen from, as he put it, the moon or Mars. So it was going to be called The Face to be Seen from Mars. And his point, making this artwork, was if we were to destroy ourselves in a nuclear holocaust, or back in 1947, that the Martians, or an extraterrestrial civilization, would recognize that at one time there was a race on planet Earth. Well, super amazing idea by Noguchi, but what it makes this really interesting to this aspect of research is that 30 years later, NASA sends back images from Mars with what appears to be a face on Mars. And symbolically, Noguchi's face to be seen from Mars and the images of the face on Mars are strikingly similar. And it makes me ponder, could Noguchi, once again back in 1947, tapped into this cosmic symbolism, brought it into fruition in the form of art, and then when he came to Detroit, he does the same thing. So, two possibilities. One, it was intentional, or two, he subconsciously tapped into the subconscious portal down here in Detroit and created Hart Plaza.
Especially naming it the face to be seen from Mars. That's what makes it weird because of the symbology of Mars, anyways, on top of the fact of specifically the other face was on Mars. Like he could have called it, the face to be seen from the sky, the face to be seen from the moon, the face to be seen from above, anything like that. But he specifically chose Mars, which makes it even weirder, just even within the name of it.
Absolutely. And, a little more detail on that. And his idea was in case we destroyed ourselves in a nuclear holocaust. Well, there's a researcher, Dr. John Brandenburg, who's done research on Mars and the isotopes on Mars, who says that Mars at some point must have went through a nuclear holocaust due to the isotopes. So if that's the case, we have a face on Mars that went through a nuclear holocaust that's basically looking back saying, hey, there was a civilization here. And that was Noguchi's precise idea. So to me, that's beyond coincidental, beyond synchronistic. I think Noguchi somehow was able to subconsciously tap into this information. And I think he did it more than once when he created Hart Plaza.
I'd say at a certain point, it's not a coincidence, and there's just way too much stuff that lines up. Like one little tiny thing, sure, whatever, but it's just nonstop. Everything with this guy, everything lines up perfectly. Like at a certain point, it's completely intentional, or he was clearly tapping into something.
Exactly. Agreed. 100%. And like I said, if Noguchi was the only one, maybe we could say it was coincidence. I don't think so. But it's happened time and time again in this exact area. So that was 1974. Now let's get to the Stargate sculpture, so to speak. That was 1974 when Osamu Noguchi created Hart Plaza, aligned it, and correlated it to the pyramids and the stars. And then in the year 2001, Detroit was celebrating its 300th birthday. And for its 300th birthday, they were going to dedicate a monument to the city of Detroit. And they had 100 and some artists come down and walk around Hart Plaza, around Osamu Noguchi's plaza, and get a feel for what would fit in. And, well, long story short, the winners felt this Stargate-looking monument would fit in just perfect. Now, that said, according to the artist, David Barr, he says this isn't supposed to be a Stargate. This was a gift to Detroit. This is actually a gear protruding from the earth. And, I get it. It kind of looks like a gear, and it is actually a kind of gear. It's called, I did some research on the kind of gear. It's called a synchronization gear, and it is a gear that is supposed to speed things up and make things go faster. But that said, considering where it's at, and just looking at it in general, it looks like a portal or Stargate to me. And especially considering all the other gateway symbolism and all the other gateway monuments around Detroit and around Hart Plaza, it looks like a Stargate. So,
Say, especially considering what's on the other side of it, which I'm sure we'll get into, the two buildings that are behind it, which make it even weirder. And also, too, before we leave Hart Plaza, we'll have to get into the one that you said some people kind of view it as something, but I think there really is something to that other little spot that's over near the plaza.
Yeah. We'll look at that in a sec. Yes, so I took the time to get a hold of David Barr, and I felt kind of weird about it because I know, what's he going to say when I ask him if he thought of a Stargate? But I got a hold of David Barr before he passed away, and I asked him, when you were walking around the plaza, did a Stargate ever cross your mind in the design process? And he was kind enough to get back to me, and he told me, no, a Stargate didn't cross my mind. He said, but that being said, the green granite spiral that leads you around and through the gateway, there's this awesome spiral that leads around and through the gateway and is surrounded by boulders. He said that green granite spiral that leads you around and through the gateway will take the visitor on a contemplative walk, and it allows them to leave the grid of the city to the sphere of space. Well, to me, he described a consciousness portal. That's kind of exactly what I'm saying, I'm not saying you're going to walk through this and pop out in Arizona or somewhere. I'm saying you may have a mental consciousness experience. And not every time, but if you're there at the right time, in the right frame of mind, it can and has happened. So I think they put a consciousness portal on top of Osamu Noguchi's Orion correlated plaza. And, you know, the gateway symbolism in Detroit, it's everywhere. This is just one small little place. We didn't even get into all the gateway symbolism there. But let's see if I have any images on here. What you were talking about.
I mean, just walking through that little bit of a walkway too on all of those stones. I know everybody's seen the image of the one that looks like it's like souls that are coming out of it. But if you walk through it, it's supposed to be like the history of the city going through the years. So even in a not as occult way, I mean, just walking through that area kind of like gives you this new restart of the city, kind of like understanding the history of it. So, I mean, in a little bit more subconscious way, it almost kind of seems like it refreshes and renews you to like maybe like a love or appreciation for the city too. So, I mean, two birds, one stone. I mean, that's still a consciousness portal to some extent.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. That was 2001. And, honestly, I kind of thought the gateway symbolism, that there was enough there. That would be enough. But it just kept on coming. They put another monument at Hart Plaza. It's the gateway to freedom. 100%. It's called the Gateway to Freedom. This was actually the last stop on the Underground Railroad. But what I'm just pointing out is how many times we're going to see the word gateway. The fountain we talked about, they gave it a brand new plaque. They called it an engine of water at the gateway to a great city, referring to Hart Plaza as a gateway. Says it right on the signs over and over again. Then, a couple years back, the Lions, or Detroit, held the NFL draft. And of all things, even the NFL draft, they started putting up gateways. They put up a gateway directly between Hart Plaza and Campus Mars. Campus Mars is short for Mars. There's all kinds of Mars symbolism there, too. We probably won't have time today, but all kinds of Mars symbolism at Campus Mars. And shoot, man, the NFL draft, the stage, they had a Stargate. And it wasn't kind of like a Stargate. It was a
that's definitely
little Stargate. They had the ancient ruins going around it. And it makes sense, new and budding stars. This is the draft. So future and rising stars were literally coming out of this Stargate. Big Sean performed in front of the Stargate. So the gateway symbolism just keeps on coming. And that wasn't enough. A couple months later, back at Belle Isle, the sacred island we kind of started off with, me and Shayn went and visited. This place is amazing. They put another new monument there. This has happened to be at my favorite location on the Belle Isle. I've been going here for years and years, walking my dogs, and was really surprised, kind of not, when I showed up and there's a gateway monument at my spot, literally. And it's kind of looks a little Stonehenge-ish, and there's this table right in the middle of the Stonehenge-ish. And there are these blue sapphire stones all over the map. And the sapphire stones, these are actually mapping out a bike trail that goes around the state of Michigan, the Iron Belt Trail. But coincidentally, the Detroit stone calls it the Gateway, the Southern Gateway. And this goes along with the new monument right here they built. It's called One World Under Michigan Stars. And I won't read the whole sign, but it says it's the Southern Gateway. The Ralph Wilson Jr. Gateway welcomes the world. The trail runs between the Northern Gateway and the Southern Gateway. Anyway, I think it says Gateway like 7 or 8 times on this little sign. And, it's another gateway. And you happen to look through this gateway at the only marble obelisk in the world. It's actually a lighthouse, but it was designed as an obelisk according to the artist Albert Kahn. So, there's symbolism just wrapping around. wrapping around Detroit.
I didn't even realize that lines up like that, because the way we were standing, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, it lines up perfect. And you can get two different alignments. You can get this alignment with the obelisk lighthouse. And then if you step to your left a little bit and look through it, you'll look at Peach Isle, the island out there. And that was actually the realm of the ancient Native American gatekeeper. So you can actually look through this gate at the realm of the gatekeeper.
Inquiries of Our Reality will be right back after this brief commercial break, so stay tuned. And now back to the show. Is that island accessible, or is that one of the ones that's kind of like off from the main island?
It is accessible by, like, people will take their kayaks over there, but there's really there's no bridge or anything like that.
So I want to bring this part up because I found it absolutely fascinating with all of the Stargate symbology that's all over Detroit. But going back to Hart Plaza for 2 seconds, I don't know if you have a picture of it, but like I was saying, you kind of said that some people interpret it this way, some don't. But the watchtower reminded me of, because you brought it up with the Tower of Babel, because it has this like spiral walk path that goes up the side of it. And then up at the top, there's such a ridiculous amount of cameras that it absolutely just makes no sense whatsoever. Like, with all the context of all this other stuff, with all the context of the Stargates, it would make sense that you have the watchers up on the tower watching everybody to see what was going on with all of it. Like, I found that one just fascinating too. But yeah, I don't know if you have a picture of it, but such an overkill on cameras. Like, it doesn't make sense unless you're looking at it with the symbolic viewpoint of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up my other presentation because I do have it in that one. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm having trouble pulling it up for some reason.
I might have it on my post if you can't find
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean, like Shane says, it's a little building built to house the water tower, but they built a spiral staircase around it, and it makes it look like the Tower of Babel. And then around the top of it, there's got to be 20 cameras circling it. You know, it looks like they're looking down at a prison or something, but, you know, symbolically, we look at it and we call it the Watchers, you know, because they are watching. And it'd be kind of goofy, but it fits in with everything else. So here we go, Shane. You can kind of see it.
I was going to say, if you can't find it, I got a picture of it.
You can kind of see it in this image here. On the bottom left, you can see the black tower. Now it's painted white, I believe. And you can see at that time, there was only like 5 cameras around the top of it. But now if you go there, as Shane pointed out, it's, you know, it's coated in cameras.
Here, let me see. I got a really good straight up picture of it.
Yeah.
There it goes. Yep. With the way overkill amount of cameras on the top.
Oh, this is what I was looking at.
Here, I'll stop sharing so you can bring it back up.
I'm trying to stop sharing too, so I can get. There we go. All right, so yeah, and we're just scratching the surface on a couple things, Shane. We talked a little bit about Hart Plaza and a little bit about Belle Isle, but there's a whole, you know, that's a couple blocks radius. We got Campus Mars, and the fact that Campus Mars is connected to Hart Plaza. I feel like there's some connections there. And Campus Mars happens to sit right at the heart of the pentagram street layout. That becomes super interesting.
Say, and kind of going back to the big Stargate that we were talking about, that's right by Hart Plaza.
Yeah.
Behind it, getting into some 9/11 conspiracy. Did you want to give a little bit of the history of that building behind that? Because that almost kind of makes it weird that that's the building that you can see behind that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try to share that again because that's a good point. So when you're looking through, I'm going to find. I think I'm just going to go ahead and describe it. So when you're looking through the Stargate at the skyscraper directly through it, right in front of it, it looks identical to the World Trade Centers. Now, this is no mistake. The reason it looks identical is because this was Masaru Yamasaki, the creator of the World Trade Centers. This was his design and first attempt to make sure that his design would be stable for the trade centers. So this was actually a model for one pillar of the trade centers. And when they put up the transcending, yeah, thank you, Shayn, the white building right there, that looks just like one of the towers of the trade centers, because that's what it was. That was the first design, making sure the architecture would stand up. And of course, he made it a lot taller, but this was his first attempt. So, interestingly, it was 2001 when they built the Transcending Monument. And, of course, the trade centers were coming down. Relatively the same time, the Transcending Monument was going up, and you're looking through at the blueprint for one of the trade centers. And, this has to be synchronistic to a point. David Barr came up with this design previous to the trade centers coming down, but somehow it all fits.
I mean, adding even more context that even makes it even weirder into Detroit. Everybody's heard of the Masonic Temple. It's one of like the main places that everybody goes for music events in the area. You gave a lot more context on the history of that building that, again, me being in the area and didn't even quite know exactly. Like, I knew Crowley had some connections to it, but I guess you can probably fill in the gaps with that one a bit, because that makes all of this become even weirder.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we talked about the Horus connection down here at Hart Plaza. Now, there is a possible reason that's there, and it's just possible. Now, Aleister Crowley, he came to Detroit, and what he said, the reason for him coming to Detroit was he wanted to come to Detroit to start the new Aeon of Horus. So he actually came to Detroit, and his idea was he was going to create the largest outfit of Freemasons in the world, and they were going to create a building that was going to house all of the sects of Freemasons. But that said, his idea was, by him creating this, he thought he would be the master mason, so to speak. Well, long story short, he did come to town, and he did make connections with the Masons. But in the meantime, he was kind of also doing some other ritual magic and stuff in the area, and it actually made the newspapers. You can go back and find some of the newspapers. They got in trouble for, they were getting mescaline from Park Davis, the pharmaceutical company, and there were some headlines of some different sex rituals, parties, and they kind of got busted for all this. And long story short, the Masons didn't want to kind of be connected with that reputation. So they didn't go along with Aleister's whole plan of him being the leader of the gang, but they did take his idea to create a Master Mason Hall. And to this day, we have the largest building in the world. And like Shayn said, now today they house a lot of music concerts and stuff, and they're pretty much doing that to keep it viable and keep it afloat. But there's a lot of occult underpinnings in Detroit. It always has been. So, I always make the point. Sama Noguchi, to me, he returned from Egypt, and he probably tapped into some Egyptian symbolism. But Aleister Crowley was here 30 years before him, trying to issue in the quote, New Aeon of Horus. So there is that possibility that it was Crowley and his New Aeon of Horus and his leftover energy that Noguchi tapped into. Now, I talked about the Horus fountain being symbolic of the Egyptian goddess Nuit. Well, in the New Aeon of Horus, Nuit was the head goddess also. So, once again, there's two parallel paths, and it could go either way. I'm not sure, so I always just put out both stories.
I mean, even going back into the Masonic Temple, too, I mean, I feel like concerts in general are a ritual. I mean, a lot of people kind of talk about the conspiracy community. So I feel like, there might be some good possibility that the way the Freemasons work, what they're intending this building to be used for might still be functioning to this day, just not in the means that it's publicly announced. Like even the Crowley stuff. I mean, I'm sure that he probably still had some tie into this building, but it may not have been up and on paper, because it seems like with a lot of the Freemason stuff, this is something I've been kind of talking about lately. I don't think everybody wants to say it's this group, it's this specific group, but I think it's something bigger than that. I think it's a philosophy that a lot of different groups follow. So essentially, you can't really ever cut off the head of the snake because it all just continuously pushes in that same direction. So, if that's being said, there may not be all the Freemasons that are involved necessarily, but I'm sure that there's still some Freemason groups that might be involved with some of this ritual magic, going to the Masonic temple, and possibly even using that energy of people during concerts to possibly do some of the ritualistic stuff that they're trying to do. Because for me, at least, I mean, they put on a lot of concerts there, don't get me wrong, but I feel like there's got to be some more of an underbelly to that place, especially with, some of the stories that you said where you said that you went to a party there and ended up finding a secret passage. Like, I feel like there's a lot more going on there than what they lead off regardless. And it may not be the Freemasons, but it's the philosophy that some Freemasons happen to share that might still be getting pushed through the doors of that place.
100%. Like, there's no question about it. Like we talked about, there at this point are people that recognize the energy, and when these underground groups recognize the energy, they're gonna try to utilize it. And if anybody's ever been or seen the Freemasonic temple, the energy is oozing out of this place. I mean, you can feel it when you go there. And there's guaranteed people at minimum trying to utilize it. And it is a crazy, like Shayn said, it's a crazy place, man. We rented out one of the rooms for a party, and one of the mirrors in the bathroom literally opened up into a passageway. I mean, that's what we were able to find. That's what, we just accidentally found. So what's really there, I can only imagine.
I mean, just to continue on with that inspiration too, another very interesting detail, which I still have the picture up so I can show exactly where this building's at. But, the original Suicide Squad, Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, all those guys all followed Crowley. They're very, very interested in Crowley. So ironically, what is also right next to the Stargate, you have L. Ron Hubbard's good old Scientology building.
If you stand in the same position, we were just looking at the 9/11 building. If you stand in the same position, and look just a little to the left, the building to the left, literally the building to the left is the Scientology building. That's relatively new, I'm going to say within the last 5 to 6 years. And they built this beautiful building, and, did they recognize the energy right here on this spot? They could have bought any building in Detroit. They wanted the one closest to the consciousness portal, as far as I'm concerned. And they got it, and they built it out. And, I don't feel that's a synchronicity. I don't feel that's a coincidence. I feel that was probably intentional on their part.
Especially considering just construction in this area in general. It's not like somebody can say, I want that spot. Like, it seems like they had to be greasing some palms in order to be able to build a building in that specific location, because it's all front of like some historical buildings.
Yeah.
Like, what's the context that they would be able to build that building there? Like, it doesn't make any sense if you really think about it on paper either.
Yeah, it would be a huge stroke of luck to get that building, for sure. And from that building, you can see if you recall, the Masonic alignment of the Joe Louis fist and the pyramidal contraption with the Freemasonic George Washington. That building is at the perfect angle to be able to catch that alignment. So that's kind of coincidental also.
Do you have pictures of that by chance?
Possibly. Let me see here.
Yeah, I can stop the screen share and trade you if you got some pictures of it. I got pictures of the monument itself right here.
Yeah.
You'll just have to bring up the ones for the alignment a little bit later, but...
All right, I think I got one. Let's try it.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back after this brief commercial break. And now back to that deep conversation you crave.
So this is the alignment me and Shayn were talking about here, and this is... Let's see if I can get this to play. So this is unfamiliar to anybody until I came across it, as far as I know. Is it showing up, Shayn?
Yep, it's showing up.
Okay, so this is directly in front of Hart Plaza. Like, this fist is basically pointing across the road to Hart Plaza. It actually points from Campus Mars to Hart Plaza, and it's in this giant pyramidal contraption sitting on its own cornerstone. Get a different angle of it's pointing right at you. Now, down the street, probably 2 blocks is my guess, is Freemasonic George Washington standing on a pedestal in front of the Old Mariners Church, and this was a gift from the Freemasons. And what happens is when you stand in the right spot, you get this alignment where the pyramidal contraption and George Washington create the same scene as when George Washington laid the Freemasonic cornerstone. We literally have the pyramidal contraption on the cornerstone, with Freemasonic George Washington standing right behind it. And you would never recognize that unless you were at the perfect position, which the Church of Scientology happens to be at that perfect position to see that alignment, coincidentally. So I got
Almost purposeful.
almost purposeful. So I got this. Just happened to be the next slide, Shane. We're at the Detroit Masonic Temple. So
Well, that worked perfect.
yeah, perfect. Here's a couple images. This was the laying of the cornerstone at the temple. Or I'm sorry, I forgot which. This was some ceremony at the temple before it opened. But I just want to show you how many people, how many white bald guys in particular, showed up for this ceremony. I mean, as far as the eye can see, these guys are dressed up in suits. Here just to watch this building be built. Look how creepy that is.
That's what I'm saying, that there's a lot of power to that building, man. Like, it's undeniable, the fact that there's no way that they're just letting this be sitting vacant and not being used for some type of like occult ritual, because obviously you can't be open about this type of stuff if you're actually conducting these types of rituals. So, well, not again a perfect front to say, oh yeah, we're just conducting concerts, and now you have this like mass energy, and then you're probably more than likely conducting rituals underneath while all this mass energy is being conducted in the building.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone wants to dig more into detail on Aleister Crowley, the occult in Detroit, there is a book written by a Mason in Detroit called Panic in Detroit, The Magician in the Motor City. And it was part of the Blue Equinox Journal from the Detroit Masons, and that's where you're going to find the majority of your information on the story. Share there. So yeah, a lot going on in Detroit, a lot of occult underpinnings, for sure.
Well, I guess we still got about 10 minutes or so, and I definitely want to be able to take more time to be able to dive into a bit of the folklore stuff. But just for the time being, we might as well give them a little bit of a taste of some of the folklore stuff that you were kind of mentioning, specifically with like Belle Isle, because since I mentioned in the beginning, I at least want to get to the context of the white deer.
Yeah, for sure. I might be able to actually pull that up as I talk about it. A second here. So yeah, we're talking about Belle Isle and the gatekeeper, so to speak, the legend of the gatekeeper. Let's see. All right. So this is Chief Sleeping Bear, and Chief Sleeping Bear was the major chief in the.
I think the screen share is down, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries. I'll clean it up in the post. No worries.
All right, so. All right, I'll just describe it. So Chief Sleeping Bear was the chief on Belle Isle, and he had a beautiful daughter. They called her the Serpent Goddess. And one day, the daughter was out on a canoe, and he used to keep the canoe tied to the shore so she wouldn't drift away. And one day, the great gatekeeper, the wind of the river, was also known as the gatekeeper, blew the canoe off its mooring, and it floated to Peach Isle, we talked about, which was the realm of the gatekeeper. Well, long story short, the gatekeeper supposedly had his way with Chief Sleeping Bear's daughter, which caused a feud between Chief Sleeping Bear and the gatekeeper. Well, Chief Sleeping Bear killed the gatekeeper and buried his body on Peach Isle. And at the same time, he brought his daughter back, and he immortalized his daughter, so this could not happen again, as a female white deer that was gonna roam Belle Isle for forever. So, as far as the gatekeeper, supposedly his spirit remained at Peach Isle. And through the years, Native Americans would go there and meditate and converse with the spirit of the gatekeeper before they would go to war. Chief Pontiac, in particular, went there, meditated for 2 days, and fasted to decide if he would go into the Great Indian Wars. He conversed, he got his information from the gatekeeper, so to speak. Now, back on Belle Isle, the immortalized female white doe deer was to live on forever. Which sounds kind of crazy, very legend-like. Now, that being said, move up the timeline to the last couple years. And it began about 15 years ago. I happened to see this take place in front of me. And Belle Isle was they got a new zoo, and they were updating their zoo, and they always had a couple deer at the zoo. And I was actually out in the woods kind of hanging out. I was walking my dogs, having a little puff, whatever, and a truck backed in, lowered its gates, a big truck, animal truck, and a family of white albino deer came out of the truck. And they began breeding them, and to this day, we have some albino deer in the precise area where the serpent goddess was supposed to be immortalized as an albino female deer. So, another synchronicity maybe, but, considering everything else, I think it was just meant to be.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things that for a long time, it's like I kind of knew the legend and I thought that they had it there just because of the legend. But after kind of understanding a lot more of like the occult practice and the symbolism behind the occult in Detroit, it almost makes sense like they would have to have it there in order for it to be like some type of like energy conductor or some type of like even like ritual, so to speak, like paying homage to that specific entity by having like this visualization of it there.
Absolutely. And I'm not convinced that the zoo even, intentionally brought there due to the legend. I think it just happened. Like it just happened somehow. Just like some of these blueprints and this artwork just kind of happens. Somehow that those deer were supposed to be there. I think there's always that chance a guy knew the legend. I don't think so. I think it was just meant to be. They were meant to be there, and somehow the universe got them there.
I mean, continuing on with that thought too, I don't know if you've been digging into it, but have you heard that they are demolishing the old Belle Isle Zoo?
I have, actually. I think they just about finished it this last week or so. Absolutely. And I'm kind of bummed out because I never got to get back in there and explore it as much as I would like to.
You and I were talking about that when we were there. I was saying that I literally never got to actually see it. And just to throw in a little fun fact for people, if anybody have seen the movie Real Steel, the one that had Hugh Jackman with the robots fighting,
yes.
The main place where they go when they first start fighting with their first fight with the robots, it's like this old abandoned decrepit zoo. That is the Belle Isle Zoo. If anybody wants a visual, that's it.
Yeah, man, if I knew they were tearing it down that quick, we should have got in there. I'm bummed. I'm bummed.
Just for the sake of bringing up a picture of it too. I mean, anybody that's done urban exploring specifically, like I know people came from other states to see this place because it was so cool looking. But I mean, if they're tearing it down, they claim that they're going to be building it into some more like nature center, nature area walks. But you already can read between the lines, man. I'm waiting for some new monuments to start popping up because even if they have a nature trail, the nature trail that you're kind of showing with the gateway that leads into where the obelisk is, that's your nature trail, and they built that giant thing up. So I'm really, really curious to see what ends up happening with this area because I don't think they're going to strictly just make it trails. Like there's got to be something to it,
Agreed, man. There's another monument coming. There's another sign at a minimum says something, calling it a gateway. 100%.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised at all if they maybe even put some more of the like Native American mythology, folklore stuff into like the center some way because it seems like they have all of the ancient Egyptian like symbolism kind of going around the outside. So really? I'm kind of curious if they're going to start paying more homage to the native stuff on the inside because they already have the white deer there. So maybe there's going to be this like kind of buildup of that being centered with the outside being these Stargate symbols, because that almost kind of seems like it's symbolic all on its own. If they have that in the center, then almost in a weird way, it creates a Stargate itself because they have Stargate going all the way around it and they have this stuff in the center. it's almost like opening up a portal to it if you look at it from like above.
Absolutely, man. That would totally make sense. We might have just manifested that. We'll see.
I'm waiting for it, man. Hold on tight, guys. This is our last break, so stay tuned. And we are back to the show. Let's hop right in. So I guess kind of starting to wrap up towards the end, man. And for all the listeners, too, that thought this was absolutely fascinating, at some point, next time we get a chance to get together, I was talking about it before the show, I'm going to try to do like a walking tour where we can kind of do this tour again. I'll set up the GoPro, do it like a point of view where everybody can see this as like a walking tour to really see how close all of these things are together. But for the time being, if your thirst hasn't been quenched and you want to dive more into this stuff until we end up coming back for round 2 and doing that video, I know you have some books out there, man. Where might people be able to find some of these books?
Yeah, I got a website. It's chadstuemke.com. Last name spelled Stuemke. And I have a couple books over there. My latest book, Stargate Detroit, I have on a micro USB flip card. I also have some, articles, a couple older interviews over there. Love you just go over there, check things out. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email.
Well, man, I always appreciate getting to chat with you. I'm really looking forward to next time we get to go on a little adventure down there. Maybe we can even plan it for at some point when they end up opening up this area again. Or maybe we can even do somewhat of a tour when they end up doing the Nine Rouge Festival. Because I don't know about you, but I've been wanting to go to that the last couple of years. So what not a perfect opportunity than if both of us that are diving into the occult symbolism go together and see what stuff might even come out amongst the people without them realizing. Because that event in particular, I feel like there's a lot of people that dress up for it and they do the whole thing, but I don't think they really understand the legend. So I'm kind of curious what like visual representations might come out without people actually being aware of it, which just, again, goes farther into your point of proving the whole idea that it doesn't seem to be the ideas of the people in this area, but the area itself that's forming these ideas to happen.
Yep, I agree 100%. Like you said, I think a lot of it's the area. And then a lot of it is how people interpret the area. Two people can interpret the same energy in two different ways. It's all about interpretation and then how you connect, I believe.
Well, man, it'll be fascinating to walk back through this place again, even with another set of eyes, because I think last time we were there, we ended up discovering that the psalm that was on the side of the Washington statue was like 133.
Yep.
And we haven't had a chance to dive too far into that, but everybody, of course, knows the symbolism with 33. So I feel like next time we walk down there, we might even end up uncovering some more secrets on accident. So it's going to be fun, man.
Yeah. I tell you what, Shane, I think I've been walking down there for 15 years, and I think every time there's something new. It might be little, but almost every time.
Oh, we didn't even get into the fact that there's another building that's like a block over that has a bunch of beehive symbolism going around the outside of the building, too. Yeah. So maybe that's another one we can get into next time when we get into a bit more of the folklore stuff, and then we'll try to cover the bases on some of the stuff we might have missed today.
Sounds good. And we only hit Detroit. Say, we got this scenario going with, I've decoded all kinds of other cities, and then those cities connect in certain ways, so we got a lot we can talk about still.
Absolutely, man. And before we wrap up completely, I always like to end the show with some words of wisdom. So if there's any words of wisdom you might want to bestow on the listeners today, man, what might it be?
I think Shane kind of had the words of wisdom earlier when we can go out and see these cities with a new set of eyes. I think that's something we can all really appreciate, being able to see something. We've looked at the same way for a long time in a new light. That can not only change, it can change yourself and change the way you view the world around you. And that's a very big and wonderful change sometimes.
It's really, really weird, man. Once you start diving into this stuff, like I mentioned a bit earlier, you flip a switch. And once that switch is flipped, you can't unsee this stuff. Like, it's just so prominent and obvious in front of you. You see it in movies. You see it in the architecture of the buildings around you. Like, our entire world is laid out with all this symbolism. But as soon as you flip that switch, man, you can't turn it off, and you just notice it everywhere.
That's it. That's exactly it, man. You get on the trail, and I've been on the trail for a long time now, and it doesn't get old. It's enjoyable, it's fun.
Like you said, man, everybody needs to get out in their own cities and start reporting back on this type of stuff. So that being said, man, if anybody in their own cities might even find some connections with some of the stuff that you're researching. You'll have to get in contact with you, man, and continuously spread the research, because this is one of those things that I think it kind of goes beyond one individual person. It's one of those things that if we all keep working at it, we're going to slowly start chipping away with it, because the general masses aren't supposed to know this type of stuff. But if we all start working together and put our brain power together, who knows what we might discover across the country.
That's it, man. That's exactly it.
Well, man, as I said a little bit ago, I always appreciate getting to chat with you. Really, really looking forward to next time. And yeah, it's been a fun conversation. I'm sure the listeners will go home and walk through their cities and get a new visual on all of this weird stuff that's all around them, man.
I hope so, and I appreciate you having me so much, Shane. Like you said, I look forward to the next time, and we'll get down there and do it again.
If anyone would like to get in touch with me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can do so through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com, or through social media. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are the ones I'm the most active on. Or you can also get a hold of me through the submission form, which is up at the top of the link tree. And the last way you guys can get a hold of me is by calling or texting the Bizarre Reality Media hotline. That number is 313-364-1551, and you guys can contact me through that 24/7. And every single thing that I mentioned is all available in the link tree, which is available down in that show description. And with that, hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Hope the show connected some dots in your own reality, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Reality isn't what it seems. Abductees taking aboard a craft with a tractor beam. Is life a simulation or an astral dream? Aliens travel through black holes in different galaxies. Life is a bizarre odyssey, with a mic talking about philosophy. Well, Bigfoot is stalking campers as a Wendigo walks through the woods of sharpened antlers, using a Ouija board to talk to the dead like a necromancer. There's so many questions and not enough answers, so if you're interested